letters. Don't think that you have to reinvent everything that you've done. Oftentimes you'll see a similar curve or a similar straight line. Reuse it, especially if you have the Hebrew letters. Several of these look exactly the same. All you're doing is maybe changing up one little line to it. For instance, this one, there's that little curvature that looks like this. That same curvature is also found on almost like this, except for it's a little bit longer. So I could take that and reuse it. There's one, where's another one? There's that curvature right there, except it's a little bit shorter. Copy it, repaste it into there. Oftentimes what I would do, so if I wanted to copy this curvature over there, copy it, bring it over, I could paste it. Once I've got it pasted, hey, it simply matters. You can even see the same kind of outline is exactly the same that I used. Maybe I added some extra little bits to make it look differently. But you do have an eraser tool. Feel free to use these extra tools to be able to take away the parts that you don't need, and that's as easy as it is to quickly make those. Don't make this difficult on yourself at all. It shouldn't take you terribly long to work on these. Once you have a full set designed, you're ready to go. The second part of this exercise is actually making a poster layout with what you have. You will turn in this Hebrew template. So when you save this, go ahead and save the whole thing. This is one thing you'll turn in. The other thing you're going to turn in is, I've given everybody a Bible verse. I took Jeremiah 29:11. I specifically took this one because it's one of the longer ones. And so I can show you that it's not difficult to do this using a long poem. But you're going to use your letters to lay out your verse. And this is what I'm looking for. I don't want it to just go straight across and read like a normal book version. I actually wanted to see it designed. I've taken the words that are on here, and the ones that are larger, I wanted to emphasize those words. In this case, I emphasized words like thoughts. This is the word for you. This is the name for Yahweh, the Lord. This is peace and hope in a future, that kind of stuff. So I've emphasized those words in the native language. And so it works really well with this particular layout. Notice that all the other words tend to fit really well around it. I've changed up the sizes. That's the word said, and so I de-emphasize said, so thus saith the Lord, to give you peace, so on and so forth, not evil, to give you a hope, and future down at the bottom. This is what I'm looking for. Doesn't have to be terribly, terribly difficult to do. Here's how I laid this out, just to make it easier on you. Use the resources you have at hand. I could have sat down and looked at the sheet of paper that I gave you. And does everybody still have theirs? If you've lost yours, you're in big trouble. But I could have looked at it and said, okay, one letter at a time, I'm going to copy it and paste it, make sure it's the right size. Here's what Mr. Ivy did. If you go to the Moodle page, one of the resources that I'm giving to you is a PDF of really all the Bible verses. And if you download that PDF, I've already got it downloaded, Illustrator does a great job of opening PDFs in an Illustrator format. So if I open this, drag it to Illustrator, this is what it will look like. It's actually going to give you all the different pages on here. So you'll need to find your verse. For me, I'm looking for Jeremiah 29:11, which is this right here. I'll copy it, and I'll show you how I did the layout for this one. File, make a new one. As far as the size of the poster board that you're working on, it's going to be 20 by 30 inches. So we'll set that up. You can see on the one that I created, oops, I'm not filling up the entire area. I'm leaving some room on the edges, on the side, make it look like a good general layout. Don't think you got to go edge to edge on this layout. I'll paste in my verse that I'm working with. Notice what I got when I paste it in. What do I have? I've got the letters. I've got the vector letters. I can use these vector letters. I don't have to guess which one it is. I can actually use this as a template. I do need to get rid of, or at least separate out the English words with the rest of them, so I'll pull this over to the side. Here's how I separated everything out. If I was to click just on the Hebrew, or just on each line, you can see they're all grouped together, right? I do need to ungroup them so that I can link up the appropriate words together. Like all of these means the thoughts. So for, I know the thoughts that, so on and so forth. To ungroup, remember you can go to Object and Ungroup. And then it would be a matter of reselecting. So there's that. Command G, groups. So I'll group together each one of these words. Select them. I will leave it up to you as to whether you want punctuation or not. I've asked the Hebrew and Greek teachers. They said if you leave off punctuation, that's actually okay. That's actually historically accurate to not have punctuation. So if you don't want to have punctuation on yours, I'm okay with you taking it off as well. I've grouped together my words. Now check it out. Drag them over, resize them. If I want the word no to be emphasized, I've got it selected and grouped. I can drag it up and play around with my whole layout this way. For I know the thoughts, I could easily take up a whole line. That, and remember Hebrew, if you got Hebrew, is read from right to left. So I would actually want to put this over here, not left to right. Group up the next one. That I am, or that I think. Oops. Toward you. Maybe overemphasize that. You can see when I start to scale it up. I was talking with several others. Pay attention to, what is this when it sticks above the line? What's that called? It's ascender. Pay attention to letters that have ascenders. Pay attention to letters that have descenders. You don't want to have these to be the same height, the X height, as everything else. That has to stick up above there. And you'll start to see some of them actually work out really, really good to fit in specific areas. You may want to drag yourself some guidelines to make sure everything does follow the same baseline grid. So in this case, I want those to all be on the same line. I would want this to be the same height. I'm going kind of quickly to show you this. But when you're finished, you'll have something that looks like this. And I made mine a little bit lighter so that I can see it when let's pull it back up to 100%. You'll have something that looks like this. Pretty cool. All of this came from the Bible verse PDF that I gave to you. I took the guesswork out of it. Now guess what I have to do?
Insert your own.
Insert your own. So I've got this on its own layer. Check out my layers. Layer 1, this will be my template. I did it in red so it's different. Copy over all of your letters. Paste it into here. What happened? There we go. Now for mine, I will have to group them up, but I'll just kind of go quickly. And then it's simply a matter of putting it on top of, since I'm working in, see, should be working in layer 2. There we go, layer 3 for now. Paste in exactly where it should go. So I'll just, you can take it one word at a time. So let's see, where is my, there's this dude. Do make sure you copy your letter instead of actually dragging the only letter that you have over to it. Scale it up. So there's that. Need a yod. Copy it over there. Scale it up to match relative area. Y'all get the point?
Yeah.
Group it, copy it, paste it. This is the fun part. When you start seeing your letters being used, when you start seeing them come together and form the words and form the actual final product that you're looking for, then it starts to feel like a real font. When they're by themselves, you know, it looks kind of cool, but when you start to read or see how it's being used, this is really where it sets it off. Now for mine, I did all mine just in black and white. Because what the next thing you're going to turn in, this next part, is a JPEG of a final design. With this, once you got the entire thing laid out in a format that you like, again, playing around with different ways, I'm going to jump into Photoshop, and I'm going to make a new Photoshop file. This is going to be a rasterized file, and it's also going to be 20 by 30. What's a good printing resolution? 300, minimum of 300. You can keep it CMYK or RGB. It really won't matter. I'm not going to print these off. Actually, let's keep it CMYK. 20 by 30 inches, 300 resolution. Once you're in Photoshop, I want you to select your design, copy it, and paste it into here. Remember, when you're pasting from vector objects to rasterized pixel-based objects, it's going to give you these options to choose from. You've got smart objects, pixels, paths, and shapes. If you select smart objects, it gives you the ability to change up the vector file and keep editing with it. If you choose pixels, it's going to make its own layer. It's all going to be pixels, and you're not going to really be able to edit it easily. So I'm going to keep it as smart objects for now. When I say OK, give it just a second. Scale it up to the size that you need. It's actually pretty close to what I want. Lock it in. Do. It is a large file, so it's going to take a little bit of time even for supercomputers. Come on. Come on. Come on. Today's just not my day. Tell you what, I'm going to paste it as pixels just to save us the time. One reason why it's probably taking so long is, remember, when you use smart objects, you're actually adding a lot of information to your file. It's saving a copy of that vector file, and then it's having to archive all of that. That's probably why it took a little bit longer. But since I pasted it as pixels, it gets its own layer. It's a regular transparent layer. Last thing I want you to do, fancy it up. We can add color to this, we can add backgrounds to this, you can add texture to this. There's a lot of different ways that I can make this look a lot better, and I'm going to leave it up to you for how you want it to look. But I don't want it to look just black and white like I have. Here are some things to think about. First of all, if I ever wanted to change the background to it, there's a couple of options I can do. For those who are fans of my work, you know I love to use fill layers. Either solid colors or gradients tend to work out really good. I'm going to use a gradient. What's the advantage of using a fill layer versus just filling in a solid color on a transparent layer?
Easily edited?
Yeah, you can change it up. You can edit the colors. You can edit the style of it later on. So let's change our gradient. We'll do a 2-color. I'm feeling... go dark blue to lighter blue. Maybe something like this. Again, I'm just playing around for now. But since I'm using a fill layer, I can change up my direction of it. I can give it a different kind of, let's do radial. If you didn't know this, you can actually click on the object itself or the layer itself, and I can move the position of where it's at. That tends to come in handy for a lot of people. Let's go back to linear. We'll say OK to this. If I needed to add color to my lettering that I have, there's a couple of things that we can do. The easiest thing to do is, it's on layer 1, add a layer effect to this. To pull up your layer effects, you can either double click the layer, or you can find them down here at the bottom. One of them is a color overlay. You're literally going to lay over a color or a gradient overlay. Let's try color. And then it brings up the really confusing dialog box. I do not like the remake of this dialog box. I prefer the older way. Resize on a tear here. But I can overlay a color on this particular layer. Here's the options for it. Pay attention to your blending modes and your color. Right now I've got blue selected, but I can't see blue. What's my blending mode? Multiply. It's because it's multiplying it with the dark color. Let's choose normal. Now I can actually see the blue showing up over here. Probably need something a little lighter. Can go with light yellow. That looks pretty cool. I could use a gradient overlay. So I can actually have multiple colors. I was playing around with this, so I've got kind of this orange to gold kind of feel. Other layer effects to make it stand out more is you've got your drop shadows. The purpose of a drop shadow is just to give it a little bit more contrast with what you're looking with. It's looking a little bit dated in my opinion, but we can still play around with it. I do want you to play around with adding at least some sort of layer style, getting used to using those and working in Photoshop, that kind of environment. What I'm doing here is very difficult to do in Illustrator. So if I'm trying to add drop shadows, I'm trying to add gradients to multiple objects. If you do it in Illustrator, you're going to do a lot more work than, hey, I'll just put this in Photoshop and all I'm doing is playing around with one layer style. Make sense? Don't try to do this kind of thing in Illustrator. Photoshop is meant for adding drop shadows and adding that kind of information. Other things you can do with it. Let's say that background I think is a little too plain. This is where I like to jump on Google and type in a texture or type in some sort of background. Y'all give me a texture or a background idea.
Rusted metal.
Rusted metal is a common one. You guys know when you do, especially Google searches, be careful with what you use. A lot of the times this stuff can be copywritten, and so if you use it in your portfolio, you either need to give credit or you need to make sure it's open for everybody to use. Also, make sure you're getting a high enough resolution. Under your search tools, you can search a large quality size of it. And a lot of times, like I can see this one comes from myfreetextures.com. Oftentimes there are whole websites that are devoted to just giving you free textures to use. So I think this one's safe enough to use. I'll copy it. In this case, I'm not even going to download it. Hold down Control, copy image. We'll paste this into Photoshop. Let's let it take up the whole area. Since it's the background, I'm not going to really worry about resolution. Fill up my screen. I want this to be in the background. I do like the blue. Actually, that kind of looks cool by itself. If I change my blending modes, I can actually let it blend in with some of this blue. So maybe let's try color. See what happens. Oh, that's not going to get it. Overlay tends to give me a good one. Hey, that's bringing in some of the blues and also mixing in some of the other things. It's adding texture, it's adding interest to what I have. A starry pattern would look good. A paper type texture would look good. Again, this is kind of, I'm leaving technical skills, I'm getting more into artistic skills, what I think looks and feels good. But if I try to do all of this detail work in Illustrator, it's going to go really, really hard for me. In Photoshop, I've got just technically 3 layers that I'm having to deal with. And then once it's done, it looks good. It'll print perfectly as well. When you are finished with this, save the Photoshop file, but what you're going to upload is a JPEG. So I'll just do a save, or a save as. In this case, change your format from Photoshop to JPEG. And we'll do on the desktop, Jeremiah.
If you want to do, like, can you have the words different colors, like if you want to emphasize a
Yes,
certain
you can. Hold on to that thought and I'll show you some ways you can do that. Save. Remember JPEGs that will merge all of your layers, so that's why I ask you to save both a Photoshop and a JPEG. It'll be smaller, but it'll lose your layers. We'll say OK to the options, keep it a maximum. Good question, Ramsey. What do I do if I want to emphasize one particular word on what I have? First off, if I was in Illustrator, I could change the color of just that word, and then when I copy and paste it over, it could be different in here. So in this case, if I wanted, say, the word "the Lord" to be, red or something like that. Now when I copy and paste that over, that red will obviously show up. If I wanted to do it just in Photoshop, here's one way I can do that. I need to I need to isolate this particular area. In this case, since I pasted it, what did I paste it as? Pixels or a smart object?
Or in this case, pixels.
In this case, it was pixels, but I told you to do it as a smart object. If it's a smart object, I can't select just that area. I can't cut it out. So you'll need to rasterize your smart object. One of the options when you choose a layer should be, yeah, it's not even an option now, would be to rasterize that layer. Once it's rasterized, then it's simply a matter of using your selection tool. In this case, I would use probably like a lasso. And I would cut it out. So very carefully go around it. You could copy and paste it over as a separate file. When I cut it, Command X and paste it. Now check out what I got. Got it as a different layer. It's also black because it's lost its layer effect.
Right.
Once it's on that layer, it'd be a matter of selecting a different color overlay and changing that color. So you got options. You got different ways of doing that. The main thing is you need to be able to isolate that particular one. And this is one easy way of doing that. Good question. Any other questions? Issues came up? The JPEG of your poster design is what you'll upload, and also the letter file of either Hebrew or Greek. This thing is what you'll upload when you turn it into Moodle. Okay. Other than that, the rest of this time is yours to work on this, and also